Hey guys, so like I said, I wanted to make a quick little trig review video for you since I know it's been a while since we've seen sine, cosine, and tangent. So what we're doing today is one IXL. So this is R.8, trigonometric ratios, find a side length. That's the first part of today's assignment. So this video is just going to go through a few examples directly from the IXL. All right, so to begin, what I'm going to do is just kind of outline the key things we want to remember about trig. So there's sine, there's cosine, and there's tangent. The acronym that I used with my geometry classes last semester was SO, CA, TOA. So it's just kind of a little phrase that I always was taught when I was learning trig to remember what sine, cosine, and tangent consist of. So if you notice, sine goes with SO, which is O and H. Cosine goes with CA, which is A and H. And then tangent goes with TOA, which is O and A. The way that we need to look at that is that sine is opposite divided by hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent divided by hypotenuse. And then tangent is opposite divided by adjacent. So if you notice, tangent doesn't deal with hypotenuse at all, which we saw a lot of last semester because we took about a week just on tangent. So we didn't even need the hypotenuse for a whole week. And then sine and cosine are almost the same, except one uses opposite and one uses adjacent. So they both have hypotenuse as the denominator. Now that we have our little references down here, let's just take a look at this specific example. So what they give me is an angle and one side length. The prompt tells me to find the side length QR. So I'm trying to find this side right here. All right, so what I told my classes last semester was we need to follow some steps. Step one, the very first thing I always do is I circle my angle. So circle your angle, which in this case is this 24 degrees. Step two, I label my sides. So I'm going to label the sides of this triangle. Remember, we label it O for opposite, A for adjacent, and H for hypotenuse. Just to refresh, remember opposite is the one across from the angle. So directly across from the angle that you circle. The adjacent is the one that's next to the angle. And then hypotenuse is your long slanted side. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between the adjacent and the hypotenuse just by looking at the picture. So the way that I check myself is that the hypotenuse is also across from the right angle. So it's always across from that right angle. Okay, so I'm going to label my sides on this triangle. I always label my opposite first. So I draw an arrow. Okay, that tells me that this is the side across from my angle. That's my O. Next, I label my hypotenuse because I want to get that one out of the way. So in this case, this is the hypotenuse. It might be tricky because you could look at this picture and think that this guy's the hypotenuse. However, if we look at where is our right angle, well, that thing is directly across from my hypotenuse. So this is going to be H, which means the remaining side is A. Once you have all of your sides labeled, the next thing is a super important step. You want to decide what you are given and what you need. So in this case, what I am given is 24 degrees, and I'm given H. What I need to find, the thing that we're looking for, is side length QR, which we labeled O. So I need the opposite. And then step 4, I need to decide which ratio I need to use. So that's either sine, cosine, or tangent. Well, which ratio relates O and H? We want to relate what we're given and what we need. So I'm deciding which ratio has opposite and hypotenuse in it. I'm going to look up here at my little guide. The one that has opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So I know I'm going to have to use sine. Then I just need to set up my equation. So when I set up my equation, I have sine of 24 degrees is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So I'm going to plug in my numbers. Sine of 24 degrees equals, we don't know the opposite, so I'm going to keep that O on top. And the hypotenuse is 5. Then I just need to solve for O. If you notice, we're dividing by 5, so to get rid of that, I'm going to multiply by 5 on both sides. So those 5's cancel out, and I'm left with O equals 5 times sine 24. Now is where you're going to want to go into your calculator and type that in. So what I would use is the Desmos Scientific Calculator. I'm going to write that up here at the top so you can have that to see. Desmos Scientific Calculator. You want to make sure that you are in degree mode. So you want to make sure it says DEG instead of RAD. Otherwise, you're going to get the wrong answer. And then you're just going to type in 5 times sine 24. And sine should be its own button. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that on my calculator. So I'm just typing in Desmos Scientific Calculator. And like I said, it's just going to pull up a really nice calculator. When I get that typed in, I just hit 5, multiplication sign, and then right on your screen, you should see sine, cos, and tan. Type the sine button, and then 24. And I get about 2. It's 2.033. IXL wants you to round it to the nearest tenth, but if you round it to the nearest tenth, that's just 2.0, so you guys can just say 2. So QR would be equal to 2 for this example. All right, so I hope that that helps. I will do a couple more examples before we finish this video, but if you feel good after this example, feel free to stop watching, try some on your own, and then come back if you need to see more examples. All right, so now I'm looking at a different triangle, and I'm gonna see what are they asking me to find. Well, it looks like they said HI, so that's gonna be this side right here. And I'm just gonna go ahead and follow my steps. I'll write them up here. Step 1, circle angle. Okay, so I'm going to circle that 35. Step 2, I'm going to label my sides. So remember, we're labeling them O, A, and H. So look back at the first example if you want to see a little bit more of a detailed explanation. Remember, opposite is the one across from it. Okay, so I'm drawing my arrow. That's how I know which one's opposite. Hypotenuse, this time it's easy to see which one is hypotenuse because it is the slanted side. So this is going to be H, which means this one is A. So I've got my sides labeled. That's honestly the most important part. We want to make sure we can label our sides correctly. Then I'm going to write out what I'm given and what I need. So what am I given in this problem? I'm given the angle and I'm given the hypotenuse. What I'm looking for is HI, and I can see that I labeled that A, so I need A. Then I need to relate those two things. How do I relate H and A? What ratio brings those two things together? So that's step 4. We're going to choose our ratio. So that means we're either choosing sine, cosine, or tangent. Well, we want to know which one relates A and H. So remember, TOA, the one that has A and H is CA. So I'm going to choose cosine. And then I'm going to write out my equation. So you guys, the blueprint is cosine of your angle is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. That's just like the blueprint that we plug things into. So my angle is 35 degrees. And then I'm plugging in A because I don't know the adjacent. That's what I'm looking for. And I'm plugging in 7 for H. At this point, all I have to do is exactly what we did on the last problem. I want to get rid of this division. So to do that, I need to multiply. So whenever the number is in the bottom, so if the number is in the denominator, we just have to multiply both sides by that number. Multiply both sides by the number. Okay, so if I do that, it crosses out. And over here, I have 7 times cosine 35 equals A. So I'm just going to go to my calculator and type it in exactly like that. So 7 times cosine 35. And I'm getting that adjacent equals 5.7. It's about 5.734. But IXL wants us to round to the nearest tenth. So I would say 5.7. Okay, so that's exactly what you would type in for a problem like that. I'm going to do one more problem with you, and then there's one other one on this assignment or on this video that's going to have just work written in, and I will post that as a PDF so you guys can see the work. All right, so if I go to the next page of this is the one I'm just going to write the work in for. I'm not going to take time to do it in the video because it's similar to one that we've just done. But if we look at this one's a little bit different, and I'm going to show you how, which is why I'm doing this one as our last example. So we're just following our normal steps, right? So step 1, I'm circling my angle. So I got the 68. Step 2, I'm labeling my sides. So that's O, A, and H. The opposite, be really careful with this one. It's not as obvious. We draw our arrow and it's going to go to the 5. So the one they give me is the opposite. The hypotenuse is this one on the bottom here, because it's across from my right angle. So again, if it's not super obvious which one it is, look at where your right angle is and draw an arrow. That's going to give you H. And then A is this one right there. Okay, so we have our O, A, and H. Step 3, we need to write out what we're given and what we need. So what we're given is 68 degrees, and we're given the opposite side. They tell me that O equals 5. Or they give me the 5 and I labeled it as my opposite. Now I need to write down, what do I need? What am I trying to find? So it says to find BC. Well, BC is down here, so that's H. I need H. And then step 4, now that I have those things written out, I need to choose my ratio. So I'm either choosing sine, cosine, or tangent. So it's whichever one relates my given and my need, which is O and H. All right, so write yourself TOA as a little reminder. Which one of those 3 relates opposite and hypotenuse? Well, that would be SO, right, because it has O and it has H. So my ratio would be sine. And the blueprint, like we said, is sine of our angle. The angle always goes next to the ratio, is equal to O divided by H. Now I just have to plug my information in. So sine of 68 degrees equals, opposite is 5, and hypotenuse I don't know. So the reason this one's a little bit different is because we don't know the hypotenuse. So we can't just multiply by the bottom number. That's not going to work this time. However, there is a shortcut. So this is the shortcut that I told my classes last semester. This is a shortcut that you can use if the variable is on the bottom of your fraction. So in this case, H is on the bottom, that's our variable. Our shortcut is you take the top number and you divide it by the trig function. So all you have to do is take 5 divided by sine 68. So H equals 5 divided by sine 68. When you type something like that in your calculator, all you have to do is click 5 division sine 68. And I'm getting 5.39, so I'm going to round that to 5.4. All right, so those are the only types of problems that you'll see on this IXL, and you're going to get to a 75%. So let me know if you still have questions after this video. I can always also do example problems for you if you get stuck on one. So if you're really stuck, go ahead and screenshot a problem. Like I screenshotted these problems and uploaded them to do some examples. Just screenshot it, send it to me in an email or send it to me on Canvas, and I will go ahead and show you the steps that I would follow for that specific problem. So I would do something like this if you screenshot and send me a problem. You can also jump on the advisory Google Meet at 10:30 if you have any questions. And if you need to meet with me, go ahead and send me an email and we can schedule a time to meet. So this is what I have for you guys today for this IXL, and I will make another video to go over how we find angles.